Wienburg play Storm. He is a player that I've associated over the years with playing Temur Delver, had a lot of success with it, but that's a deck that's been, oddly enough, damaged by the printing of Treasure Cruise because Nimble Mongoose no longer fits into that strategy, and Nimble Mongoose was one of the major incentives to build the deck that way. Now, if you want to play Temur Delver, I think it's an inferior choice to Blue-Red Delver. It's just a less efficient build of Delver than the blue-red one. And now Ben completely switching it up. And I wonder how much of this has to do with the fact that his Temur Delver deck is no longer a legitimate choice, in my opinion.
Not only that, but I believe that Storm has a really good matchup against these blue-red Delver decks, actually.
Well, the card that most of them have cut to make room for Treasure Cruise is Spell Pierce. They're down action. And so a lot of these decks, at least game one, only have access to Daze and Force of Will as interaction. That's much easier to beat than having to beat Daze and Force of Will and Spell Pierce. And by the time something like Treasure Cruise is getting resolved, the game's already been determined. The Delver deck's usually ahead because the Storm deck is trying to win in the first, 2, maybe 3 turns maximum of the game. So even though Treasure Cruise is powerful, promotes the deck, and helps a lot of matchups, there are matchups that are damaged by it, and I believe Storm to be one of them.
It looks like Wienburg is going to take at least one mulligan here. He will be going down to 6, and it looks like Sam is on his way as well. So he's got his beautiful Brainstorm sleeves, and he'll be going down to 6 cards as well.
But Ben was kind of on the forefront of playing Legacy before the format got huge. I saw him at various, Gen Cons and sort of battling in Legacy events before, the format had really even taken shape. And even back then, he was playing with Trigon Predators alongside Lightning Bolts.
He has been playing Temur Delver forever.
Well before Delver of Secrets was printed.
Yep. Forever. And it is a little bit surprising to see him actually shift completely to this sort of thing. You think you would just shift to maybe Blue-Red Delver.
No, he is a complete overhaul here, not even playing close to the same deck.
No. Both players will be drawing up 6 cards in just a moment. If you are just joining us, it is Cedric Phillips and Patrick Sullivan, along with Matthias Hunt, Nick Miller, and Andrew Shroud. In the sideboard, round number 5 here of 15. 9 today, 6 tomorrow. From New Jersey, at SCG Live, hashtag GPNJ for your tweets all weekend long to make it through 15 rounds of action plus elimination rounds tomorrow. And out of these, yes, 4,000 people, only one can be champion. That's a lot of people.
Unbelievable. 3rd largest Grand Prix of all time. And for Legacy. And there's only so many underground seas on the planet, Yep. It's not easy to build these decks. But people have come out in droves for this Grand Prix.
It's going to be a lot of fun to watch all weekend long. See if there will be any innovations.
Well, Legacy is always a format that allows for innovation. Now, you can't ignore the staples. Brainstorm and Force of Will, and now Treasure Cruise, Deathrite Shaman, Abrupt Decay. They're always going to be floating around, so you have to be able to beat those cards or have a plan for them. But the nature of the format, the card pool is really large. It does give room for people to brew.
Well, let's see if both players are able to find 6 cards that they like. Looks like they may be waiting for the green light. Sam going to take a slow look at his hand. And it looks like they have been given the go-ahead. Round number 5 underway here from New Jersey. The Scalding Tarn there for Wienburg. Over to black we will go. He has a Volcanic Island just passing the turn back. Wienburg will draw a copy of Preordained for the turn. No sacrifice. The Scalding Tarn go down to 19. We'll see what land he wants to search up.
When you see these fetch lands get sacked in the face of blue mana, you're going to see this awkward pause from the person sacking the fetch land. That is because of the presence of Stifle in the format. Though not played, it always causes people pause whenever they're sacking fetch lands against available blue mana.
It is a basic island. And we'll see what Wienburg wants to cast, if anything, right now. There's a Preordain. Not a lot of decks play this card, so you can right away put your opponent likely on a combo deck.
Ponder and Brainstorm, those get played in all sorts of decks. Combo, beatdown, control. Preordained typically only in the combo decks, as you mentioned.
Done resolving, draw a card. Swamp, pass it back to black. He'll draw a card.
And a very small but subtle thing, but important happened there. Ben drew a card, then played a land, a different card in his hand post-combat. That means that he was willing to let that Preordain get dazed. And now if Sam's paying attention to the way that Ben's playing his cards, Sam is aware of that as well. That is a little piece of information, but the best players will pick up on that.
Brainstorm here from black. 2 cards go on top. Brainstorm's done resolving. It's a fetch land to make it a perfect one. Misty Rainforest goes to the graveyard. Even up the life totals here at 19. We'll see what Sam wants to search up. Pretty safe to search up Volcanic Islands in this matchup, and he will. Before, it was all about what lands do I want to get, basic, non-basic. Am I scared about Wasteland? Players really don't have to worry about that as much anymore. It's really interesting.
This blue-red deck doesn't care that much about getting hit with Wasteland most of the time. Sometimes it'll matter a lot, but most of the time it's fine. And they don't have Wastelands of their own, and people know this, so not a lot of Wastelanding going on right now.
The very powerful Gataxian Probe has shown up. Sam is going to go down to 17. And now he knows exactly what the opponent is up to. 2 Lion's Eye Diamonds, an Infernal Tutor, Gataxian Probe, and a Badlands here for Wienburg. It's very clear.
Well, this is a hand that's fully capable of winning the next turn. For those of you not familiar with the interaction, Ben can play a Lion's Eye Diamond, cast Infernal Tutor, and with Infernal Tutor on the stack, sacrifice the Lion's Eye Diamond. This will allow him to float mana and achieve the Hellbent requirement for Infernal Tutor, turning into Demonic Tutor, which facilitates the kill.
Search for any card. We'll see if he's willing to go off, though. I suppose Gataxian Probe makes it easier to figure out. Here's a Chain Lightning. That's how you do it.
Exactly. Sam doing this because if Ben's trying to go off through Ad Nauseam, his life total is a resource. Now, you know, being able to go off from 16 isn't really that hard, but every point damage counts, and Sam might as well do it.
Daze, Treasure Cruise, a Brainstorm, and an Island. So Ben needs to be worried about 2 cards there, 2 copies of Daze. That's it.
And keep in mind, there's a Treasure Cruise in hand, and in these kind of decks that used to be Spell Pierce. How much different is this from Ben's perspective if Sam has a mana up and there's a Daze, 2 Dazes and a Spell Pierce in hand, rather than just the 2 copies of Daze?
Lotus Petal, the draw off of the Gataxian Probe. Cabal Therapy was Ben's draw step for the turn. You know, he could pretty simply cast that if he wants to. It looks like he's considering it. Just get the Dazes out of the way, maybe make it a little easier.
Well, he may be able to just play over the top of Daze.
Yeah.
Because what if Sam simply dazes the Cabal Therapy once? Kind of annoying for Ben. It's the same thing as getting dazed twice. So I think in Ben's position, I would just ignore the Cabal Therapy in hand.
What does make it interesting is, let's say that he does cast Cabal Therapy, Sam dazes it, does add to the spell count.
It's true, yeah.
Could make it a little bit easier to go off with Tendrils if he needs to go that route.
I suppose also if Ben pays for the Daze, he can then name Treasure Cruise and try to go off next turn against just a Daze.
Yeah, if he's not that big of a rush, we'll see.
Ben's hand is so flush with mana right now that I feel like he's in a good position to try to go off this turn, but maybe he can afford to be conservative.
There go the Dazes. So Sam is not even going to respond. So now there's nothing for Ben to worry about. It seems like all systems are go here.
Yeah.
Especially with the Lotus Petal being the draw. There is Lion's Eye Diamond. Make it 2. Spell count's 4. This will be 5.
And I think Sam elected not to Daze there for the reason that I mentioned. Ben can just pay for it, name Treasure Cruise, and now Sam's hand goes nowhere. So Sam just hoping that Ben doesn't have a kill, but we know Ben's hand is completely loaded.
Badlands. This. Play an Infernal Tutor. We'll put that on the stack, as you mentioned. Able to crack some Lion's Eye Diamonds here. The big question is, does he have the Passive Flames kill rolled up?
Well, Ben does not have the spells in Graveyard to come anywhere close to a Passive Flames kill, so he has to go off through Ad Nauseam, which is not too hard to do from this spot, but there is a risk. I mean, he's only got 1 mana. He's made his land drop for the turn.
And he's cracked the Lion's Eye Diamonds for black and red mana. So 3 black, 3 red floating. Now he can get a little creative.
Yes, he can. I'm seeing it now too. He can get an Infernal Tutor here, which just adds 1 to the storm count and go get a Tendrils. Perhaps also a reason Sam didn't bother to Daze this turn is that, as you mentioned before, it adds to the storm count.
And Ben's trying to figure out exactly what he wants to do because he can chain together Infernal Tutors if he'd like to. Again, he's got 6 mana floating, but he's just going to go get Ad Nauseam. So right now, again, 3 black, 3 red floating. Spell count, you've got a Probe, a Therapy, that's 2. 2 Lion's Eye Diamonds is 4. Infernal Tutor is 5. Lotus Petal is 6. Ad Nauseam is going to be 7. He'll have 1 mana floating, either a black or a red, along with that Lotus Petal. And as you mentioned, he's already played his land for the turn.
So I think this is a spot where Ben is favored to be able to win the game from here, but by no means guaranteed.
Single black in the pool. 7 spells. Lion's Eye Diamond and a Tropical. Duress will put him to 13. Infernal Tutor will put him to 11. Ponder will put him to 10. Probe will put him to 9. Dark Ritual will put him to 8. He may stop there. Don't forget he does have a single black mana floating. 7 spells have been cast.
Well, there's nothing that can kill him from here, from the top of his deck. So he may have the kill in this spot, but he could keep going if he wanted to.
Looks like he's going to sacrifice the Lotus Petal, cast the Dark Ritual, play the Lion's Eye Diamond, cast the Infernal Tutor, stack that, break it, Hellbent, Demonic Tutor. Somebody's going to go search for a Tendrils of Agony, I believe. There is a Tendrils, and that will be more than enough. Ben Wienburg going to win game number 1 here over Sam Black. Storm up a game here over Blue Red Delver. As we turn our attention to the sideboard, we'll take a look at Sam's first. You'll find Electrickery, 2 Pyroblasts, a Sulfur Elemental, a Force of Will, a Hydroblast, 2 Sulfuric Vortex, 2 Flusterstorm, a Pithy Needle, 2 Grafdigger's Cage, and 2 copies of Smash Smithereens. Patrick, what do you like?
Well, I definitely like the 2 copies of Flusterstorm, the additional copy of Force of Will, and 2 Pyroblasts. Even though there aren't that many blue spells in Ben's deck, anytime you trade 1 for 1 against a deck that's trying to build up a critical mass of spells, that's a victory. So the soft counter spells in this match, or rather the hard counters, even if they're situational, they're big upgrades.
On the other side of things for Wienburg, he has 3 copies of Abrupt Decay, a Pyroplasm, a Massacre, 2 Chain and Vapors, 2 copies of Defense Grid, 2 Dark Confidants, 3 copies of Surgical Extraction, and a Helm of Obedience. Okay then, Ben.
Well, he can bring in the Helm of Obedience against people who are playing Rest in Peace against him. Hoist them by their own petard.
Absolutely. Always a delight to see that happen. I don't think we're going to see Helm come in here, but what do we think is going to come in?
I think the 2 copies of Defense Grid are guaranteed to come in here because most of the blue-red Delver decks, they can only interact with counter spells. It's not like they're playing Sultai where they have access to Thought Seizes and Duresses. They're going to be interacting exclusively with counters. So Defense Grid is great in that sort of situation. I think the 1 copy of Pyroclasm is a powerful enough sweeper that even though Sam doesn't have any cards specifically to take care of, you know, he's not playing with things like Aethersworn Canonist or Gadok Teague, which traditionally Pyroclasm is there to fight. It's good enough against his deck that I think Ben can bring it in purely as a defensive measure.
Both players will change some things up here before we do start game number 2. I do think Storm is actually pretty well positioned in this tournament. You mentioned it pretty well. Treasure Cruise has really taken the place for some cards like Spell Pierce and some other reactive cards. We've seen decks like this start Flusterstorm before. As a result, the defenses of the Blue-Red Delver deck, they don't really have as many.
Treasure Cruise does not just make this deck better across the board. You do pay some costs, and if you're cutting Spell Pierce for Treasure Cruise, which is the trade most players have made, then your combo matchup gets worse. If Sam has a Spell Pierce in his hand that game instead of a Treasure Cruise, it's a big difference.
Yeah.
Much harder for Ben to go off.
Ben may even be a little gun shy.
Yep.
You know, looks at a Spell Pierce in 2 days with the Gataxian Probe and says, maybe I'll wait.
And every draw step that you give Blue-Red Delver, well, that's an opportunity for them to find Force Will. It's an opportunity for them to find pressure. So it's not that safe for Ben to wait. He's compelled to go for it as soon as possible in most spots. But he got to see that the coast was basically clear.
Well, we've talked so much about Treasure Cruise in this Blue-Red Delver deck, but it looks like that maybe some decks we didn't expect, maybe some combo decks like Storm, maybe like Dredge might be the place you want to be this weekend.
Well, Dredge is a little bit more trouble just because people are gunning for graveyards now because Treasure Cruise is in the format. But I do think that these combo decks are much better than they were a couple months ago. I think even something like Goblin Charbelcher could be a fine choice for this tournament.
You don't have to say that once to me.
I know you love a Charbelcher.
I will sign right up for that.
But, you know, the anti-combo measures that a lot of people have, you know, Aethersworn Canonist, Dahlia, forget it, you're dead by then.
Oh, yeah.
Those cards do not matter.
If everything went right, they're dead. That's for sure. Get right out of here.
Goblin Charbelcher gets made fun of a lot, and is, people think that it's not really a legitimate deck. It's got a ton of awesome matchups.
Here's the thing about Charbelcher. If I came to you before a tournament, I was like, hey, Patrick, I got a deck for you.
Okay.
It can kill the opponent on turn 1.
I'm interested.
Yep, that's it, right? I don't have to say anything else, right? A high percentage of the time.
Right. It's not even it can kill on turn 1, but it kind of often kills on turn 1. Not like 50% of the time, but like a pretty high percentage. It comes up.
It's like, yeah, I would like to listen to what you have to sell me here. Okay. And it's like, yeah, if they have a Force Will, they might win. If they don't have a Force Will, they're likely dead. And sometimes they have Force Will, it doesn't matter.
Do you have an information pamphlet? Do you have a spreadsheet, some slides you can show me? Because I'm interested in this product.
What's your email address? I'll send you an email.
Okay.
I'll get one over to you. BasicMountain@burn.com still?
Yeah, at Hotmail.
I'll send you.
Get it? Because it's hot like burn, and just Hotmail is a funny email account.
I understand. Yeah, I see.
Two levels that joke works.
He's on fire here from Jersey.
Whew, man.
Guy's coffee. He's good to go.
Dunkin' Donuts. Got to make a run during my break.
What do we got in that cup?
Black hazelnut.
Okay, I had a feeling it was the hazelnut. One of your favorites.
Yeah.
You gonna take some home with you this time too? I know last time.
I'm pretty stocked up. Stocked up. Winter's coming in San Diego, and who knows when the snow will come, So you wanna make sure you have all this stuff in your house.
Winter is what, 50 degrees for you guys?
Mid-60s.
Yeah, it's really rough out there.
I'm just saying, you can never be too safe.
Got to get a pot going.
We get fog sometimes.
Oh no.
Yeah, no, I'm not kidding.
Some low-laying clouds.
It gets serious.
My goodness. Nobody said it would be easy.
No, they did not.
And it was easy for Ben Wienburg game 1. That might be about as easy as it gets, honestly, for him.
It's power level of this deck. Turn 3 kill through 2 dazes. People who think the combo decks in this format fold to a single counterspell. There's some decks that are like that, but the resilient ones like Storm, they can play through this kind of stuff. Even if Sam had a Force Will in his hand, that would have just been stripped away by the Cabal therapy.
Yeah. Well, Black. He'll be on the play this go around. Doesn't look too thrilled with the 7 cards he's looking at, so.
Well, there's a lot of pressure on Sam to find specific cards. His hands of, creatures and some bolts and a cantrip. They're not going to cut it here, so he's got to be willing to throw away okay hands in the pursuit of good hands.
And Sam's approach, much like a lot of the players I've seen playing blue-red this weekend, again, they've moved away from their counter magic. They've moved more towards more burn spells. You see Wienburg going to take a mulligan here. He's got 4 Chain Lightnings and a Fire Blast in his deck.
Well, this is all about trying to beat the mirror or trying to beat other Delver decks, but it does come at the expense of the combo matchup.
And, of course, this is in addition to the 4 Lightning Bolts, which are basically stock at this point. So a lot of players looking to go the burn route, interact with the creatures instead of having the counter spells. You're not going to find spell piercers really very much at all this tournament. So it is a little bit interesting, I will say that. See if Ben can find a better 6. The Storm deck, one thing it does do, mulligan surprisingly well since it has a lot of redundant cantrips.
Though it is about, the mechanic Storm says play a bunch of spells in 1 turn. So every spell that you're down to a mulligan, that's a big cost, but it can go off from a relatively low base of resources. Lion's Eye Diamond is a big cheat.
It is. Almost certainly the best Lion's Eye Diamond deck in the format.
Yeah. It's close enough to Black Lotus in this deck, and you get to play 4 of them.
Yeah. They'll let you do whatever you want.
That's a lot of copies of Black Lotus.
Are you saying they don't let you play 4 in most formats?
No. There's only 1 format. They only let you play 1, and it's the best thing going on.
Yeah. It's not a bad place to be, I suppose.
That's an interesting thing with Legacy Storm. If you allow them to cut the 4 Lion's Eye Diamond and they get to play with 1 actual Black Lotus, would they make the trade? I don't think so. I think they would keep the 4 Lion's Eye Diamonds in the deck.
I think they would keep the 4 Lion's Eye Diamonds too. I don't think they would make the trade. Does make for an interesting conversation.
That says a lot about the power of Lion's Eye Diamond in this deck.
Absolutely. Though, they do get to fill those other 3 Lion's Eye Diamond spots with something else. I don't know what those other 3 cards would be, but they do get to fill with something else. Gataxian Probe, we're going to see what's going on right away. Infernal Tutor, a Duress, make it 2, along with 3 lands. Not the worst bowling I've ever seen, but not the best either.
If Sam's hand is really reactive, Ben's hand is powerful because he can strip away the counters and wait for help. But if Sam's able to open up on a Delver of Secrets, this hand doesn't really go anywhere, and Ben might die before he gets anything going.
Oh, Black's going to write down those cards. You see the Underground Sea, the Badlands, Blue to Delta, along with Infernal Tutor and 2 copies of Duress. Black knows all of that. He will draw a card. Looks like it was a copy of Pyroblast. Just going to play a Volcanic Eye before passing the turn back. Dark Ritual to draw here from Wienburg. Looks like he's going to get to see Sam's hand in just a moment. There's Duress. Sam's going to respond very quickly with a Brainstorm. He's got some hiding to do.
So this is another powerful thing that Brainstorm allows you to do. Hide your best action from discard spells. Sam's got too many spells in his deck that he can't make the Duress miss, most likely, but he can make it a lot worse and give Ben way less information to work with.
Now, Sam does have a copy of Force Will in his hand at this point. Wouldn't surprise me to see him try to hide that right now.
It's the big prize. Not only does he want it not taken by Ben's Duress, he also wants Ben to not know about it. So I think that's the card you would hide.
Well, take a little look. 2 Brainstorms, a Ponder, along with a Young Pyromancer, Flooded Strand, and a Mountain are the cards that Wienburg will write down. He'll get to select one of those blue cards here with his Duress.
So the Brainstorm did some real work here. Sam still has targets in his hand for this Duress, but they are redundant targets, and Ben is getting very little information to work with.
I think I would want to take a Brainstorm if I'm Ben in this situation. Just seems better than Ponder since it has instant speed.
I don't know. The second copy of Brainstorm with a hand that doesn't have that many ways to shuffle may be worse than the first Ponder.
Okay.
The Ponder also can potentially generate a shuffle for one of the Brainstorms. I don't know. It's not clear to me. I think that I would err on the side of taking a Ponder there, but it's very close.
Brainstorm's going to bite the dust. Sam has already made up his mind. Leaves the Mountain and the Young Pyromancer in play, so he already knows the card that he's going to draw. So that'll be Sam's turn. Not going to give away any information about what he draws for the turn. Ben going to play his Badlands. Drew a Lotus Petal for the turn. Dark Ritual last turn. He's working his way towards something here.
And so Sam did not draw the Force of Will this turn, which means because he knows about the second Duress, he was worried Ben just Duresses him this turn and takes the Force of Will, which means this turn, Sam's shields are down.
Yep.
If Ben is drawn very well here, he could theoretically go for a kill. Sam's banking on the fact that he can't. He gets to protect himself from that Duress for at least one more turn.
He didn't draw that well. It would have taken some really nice draws for him to go off that turn. Sam draws his Force of Will for the turn. We know about the Flooded Strand in hand. He might want to lead off with a Ponder, but we'll see as he goes reaching for the Volcanic Island. It's an elemental token here for Black. Ponder will resolve, so we'll take a look at a Force of Will. Let's make it 2, along with the Scalding Tarn. Hard to pass those up.
Especially with Young Pyromancer, provides quite the clock.
Very quickly leaves it on top. So Ponder's done resolving. There is the Flooded Strand, an attack for 2. Puts Wienburg down to 18. It's a tie game. And Black happy to pass the turn back. Wienburg will draw a card. It's his 3rd turn of the game. We'll see what he can put together.
He's got a lot to fight through now.
Yep. If that Duress were Cabal Therapy, which happened to be his draw, he'd be feeling pretty good about things, but since he did draw Cabal Therapy, he's feeling pretty good about things, I think.
The problem is that there's still a Force of Will hanging out on top of Sam's deck, and Ben might not play around it down the line.
Sure.
It's going to be hard for Ben to work his way through all the Force of Wills and not get tripped up by the one he doesn't know about.
Ben going to lead off with Duress, thinking this will maybe be a little bit easier. Sam, I think, considering casting a Brainstorm in response here, he'd have to correct the fetch land to do so, which would mean that the Force Will that's on top of his deck would have to get shuffled back around. But it looks like that's what he's going to do. So, Flooded Strand's going to get sacrificed. Sam's going to go down to 17. There is a Volcanic Island. And maybe we'll see a Brainstorm here in response.
Though this does mean that Sam either has to reveal Force of Will and lose it to the Duress, or put his shields down this turn. And as you mentioned, Ben will have to have drawn very well to kill Sam from this spot, but it's not inconceivable.
Looks like black will cast a Brainstorm, trigger the Pyromancer. There's an Elemental Token. All that good stuff resolves, as does the Brainstorm. So 3 cards coming here for Sam. 2 cards will have to go back in just a moment. Daze among the cards that black has found. Problem here is you take a look at the number of blue cards, 3. So not 4, which would be Force of Will plus 2 blue cards. He's got 2 Force of Wills and a Daze.
I'm curious to see how Sam wants to run this here. He can show Force of Will, Daze, Force of Will here, hide some other pieces, and say to Ben, well, you can't take both the Force of Will, so good luck going off this turn. But because of the Cabal Therapy we know about, that would leave Ben in position to potentially just say, all right, I'll take your Daze, cast Cabal Therapy. I know your hand's 2 Force of Wills. What do you want to do about this? Neither position is desirable from Sam's side.
It's very interesting, too, the dynamic of playing against Storm 2, because all Ben is doing here is simply casting a Duress. You don't know if he's trying to go off this turn or not.
Well, Sam is working with a bit of information because of the Gitaxian Probe, but
I suppose that's true.
It is Ben just casting these to see what's going on and maybe slow Sam down a little bit, or is he trying to kill Sam this turn? Both of those lines of play require completely different responses.
And don't forget, think about the cards that Sam saw off of the Gitaxian Probe. The 2 Duresses, the Infernal Tutor, and the 3 lands that are in play.
Yeah.
So every other card in Wienburg's hand is a mystery, as here is a Duress. So Sam hiding the Daze and the Force of Will.
And he is saying to Ben, you can take a Force of Will here, potentially ignore Pyroblast and kill me this turn, but I don't think you can do it. And Sam has no ways to draw any more cards this turn. He has no cantrips in his hand. So this turn, at least, what Ben sees is what he gets.
Yep.
And even if he does need to go off through a blue card, he can take the Pyroblast because the Force of Will can't be cast in this moment. Sam on both of these Brainstorms has basically said to Ben, I don't think you can do it. I don't think you can kill me this turn.
Yes, I hope you can. There goes Pyroblast.
Uh-oh.
That's a therapy. Hit your Force of Will. You have to imagine the way that Sam stacked his deck from the Brainstorm is probably drawing Daze this turn, Force of Will next turn. Let's see what the draw is. Yep.
So this way, maybe the Daze comes up and provides some defense.
Yeah, for sure. There's a little guy. There's the beatdowns. 2, 3, 4, and 5. Wienburg going to go down to 13. Every point matters in this situation, of course, because we saw last game Ben win with ad nauseum.
Yeah. Now, Ben, this is, again, more of the cat and mouse. Not much of Legacy is played on the board. It's more about what's going on both players' hands. He knows Sam hid 2 cards. So whatever Sam drew, because his hand was good, it had a Force of Will and a Pyroblast that he was willing to give up to the Duress effect. Ben knows Sam drew something real.
Yep.
Whether it's Daze, whether it's a Pyroblast. But he didn't draw a land this turn. He knows that for sure.
We know that.
So Ben has to play around things quite a bit in this spot because he knows Sam drew something of significance.
And as someone who has played Delver strategies for quite a while, as Wienburg has, you have to imagine most of these cards are on his radar. Your Spell Piercers, your Fluster Storms of the world. There's a Dark Ritual. Looks like it's go time. That's an ad nauseum. All right, that was his draw for the turn. Conveniently has a mana left over. Though this may be worth dazing. To be fair, Wienburg has not played this land yet for the turn.
The Lotus Petal is it's not just any mana source. It's possible for Ben to be short on colors of mana in certain spots. So if this was something where Ben had a black mana floating his pool from Dark Rituals, let's say, probably not worth a Daze. But the fact that Sam gets a Lotus Petal out of the deal makes it a little bit more attractive to use a Daze this way.
Sam going to take a look here at the very powerful ad nauseum. And he says, you know what, I will hardcast a Daze. So we'll do a little spell check here. You got a Dark Ritual, a Lotus Petal, an ad nauseum, and a Daze. That'll be 4 spells. No mana floating here for Wienburg. But he hasn't played a land yet. He's at 12. Let's make it 11. Gonna do a little bit of math, see how much he can go. How about 10? Let's make it 8. Let's make it 7.
And this is why it was so good at Days of the Lotus Petal. He got, now Ben, as I mentioned before, he's getting bottlenecked on black mana. He can't cast a Dark Ritual and try to keep going because he doesn't have access to black mana.
And he's at 4 now, and now he's a little bit scared. It looks like he may stop. The card in his hand is an Infernal Tutor. We know that.
I don't think the cards in hand leads to a win. I think he's got to keep going.
2. Got to keep going. Still 2.
Oh,
Still 2.
That's big. That's a black source of mana.
That's going to put you to 1. And it looks like we're all done having fun. Can he keep it going? Looks like he may be playing an island and a ponder here. Sam Black hoping he can make it out of this turn.
Ben's got some goods to work with here. He has a Lotus Petal, a Dark Ritual, and a Cabal Ritual, and the ability to get to Threshold. That's a lot of mana.
I think the issue here is he can't get all the cards out of his hand, so this island plus ponder might have to find Lion's Eye Diamond so that he can have all the fun, of course, with the Infernal Tutor and going Hellbent.
Yeah, but Ben gets a lot of looks at things here. He's got a good shot at finding something. At least 4 looks between the 3 cards from the ponder plus a shuffle if he misses.
Yep. Island. Ad nauseam's done resolving. That'll go to the graveyard. There's your ponder. That's spell number 5. 1, 2, and 3. Any Lion's Eye Diamonds to be had? The big whiff, the big shuffle, and a mystery card coming. Yeah, we haven't had a good top deck yet today.
Rub your hands together.
Yeah.
Maybe give a little bang on the deck.
Sam with a very slow cut. The mystery card is a Lotus Petal.
Okay, that's something.
That makes it a little more interesting.
Well, now he can Petal plus Dark Ritual. I mean, he might be able to just manual style cobble this together. I know, we'll see, but it feels like a big assist.
It gets very, very interesting now because Chain and Vapor can kind of play an interesting role in things too. That's spell number 6. Attacks him for if he has a cantrip here. Preordain is what he drew. Again, no mana floating, though he does have a Lotus Petal in his hand.
And now he might be dead-ended if there's no help here. Because he has to pick a path with his Lotus Petal. He can either make blue mana and cantrip or black mana in ritual, but neither of those get him in the other direction.
Preordain. Take a look. I think he's going to draw that one and scribe the other 2 to the bottom.
Yeah, I think at the point there where he's casting Preordain, he has nothing left to do.
Yep.
There's no individual card he can find.
And he will concede the game. So Sam Black is going to win game number 2 here. His opponent, Ben Wienburg, helps Sam out. Ad nauseam does a lot of the damage, unable to find the kill. And we'll play a 3rd game here between Blue, Red, Delver, and Storm.
There's a couple combo decks in the format. Ad nauseam's one of them. Reanimator's one of them. Where the life total is a real resource. Where they're trying to go off with something like Ad nauseam that we saw in that game. Trying to put something out of the graveyard with Reanimate. And doing points of damage matter. It does prohibit them from going off, and that's what you saw in that game. If Ben has a couple more life points to work with, he might very easily find the kill.
Absolutely.
But he had to stop at 1 life and try to make do with what he found, which was a little bit short of generating a kill.
Every single point matters. We know that. Be it Burn, be it Delver, whatever you can do to Storm to get them low and get them in a situation where they have to cast Ad nauseam and can't go off through Passive Flames, well, that's a victory.
Yes.
So a 3rd one with Wienburg on the play this game. We'll see what happens.
I was interested to see Chain of Vapor in Ben's deck.
You know, it facilitates some very interesting kills. Additionally, you know, I feel like that's in his deck more than anything is just a hedge. What kind of nonsense can you have as far as a permanent is concerned that I need to get off the board? Who's to say, for example, that Sam Black doesn't have a card like Eidolon of the Great Revel or Pyrostatic Pillar?
It's very true.
And, you know, again, it does facilitate some very interesting kills where you can play a bunch of Lotus Petals and Lion's Eye Diamonds, play Chain of Vapor targeting your own stuff, sacrifice your own lands, kind of pick up those 0-mana artifacts, replay them again, and build a bit of a storm. I learned that one from Carson Cotter.
Oh, wow.
He's a rather smart storm engineer.
All the lines of play.
He knows them all. He knows them all.
It's no flow 2 mana, fire blast you, treasure cruise, but it is a pretty fancy line of play.
Well, now you're speaking my language.
Yeah.
And for what it's worth, that is pretty fancy.
Yes.
Okay. I would love to do that. Or sacrifice all your lands to Zoran Orb, gain a bunch of life, and then treasure cruise.
Yep. A lot of angles, a lot of ins, a lot of outs, a lot of what have yous.
Both players going to shuffle up here, get ready for game number 3. Do appreciate you guys all joining in with us. Right near 14,000 viewers here on a Saturday.
Wow. That is a lot.
So we do appreciate you guys joining us here for Grand Prix New Jersey, 3rd largest Grand Prix of all time, being hosted by Star City Games and SCG Live.
Thank you very much for tuning in. We appreciate it.
Round 5, 9 today, 6 tomorrow. Of course, 3 elimination rounds on top of that. Before we do get to a champion, give away some invites to the next Pro Tour as well. But right now, we turn our attention to Ben Wienburg and Sam Black. Black able to even things up, and here for Wienburg, someone who is very familiar with Delver strategies, now he's got to try to beat one.
And typically a matchup Storm would like to avoid. Not that they have no chance, but a clock plus some counter spells is not what they're looking to play against.
Wienburg going to give it a long look. Black patiently waiting. He's got a lot of Grand Prix top 8s to his name, looking for another one.
And a player who's done some pretty fancy brewing in Legacy through the years. Coloring inside the lines for this tournament, but we've seen some Gravecaller Goblin Bombardment shenanigans from Sam over the years.
Well, I do have to give a pretty large shout out to his last premium video on Star City Games where he tested out the Soldier deck that we have seen in Legacy tournaments recently.
Oh, wow, the Captain of the Watch deck?
Yes, that's correct. Primitive Captain and all that stuff. He gave it a run. Gave it serious consideration for this tournament. Said it wasn't bad, just not as good as Death and Taxes in his opinion. Here's a Gataxian probe. We'll see a probe on Sam's side as well as a Force of Will, a Brainstorm, a Flusterstorm, a Lightning Bolt, a Young Pyromancer, and an Island. Oftentimes you will see this deck, Blue Red Delver, keep one-landers like this.
This is a great hand here for Sam. It's got a piece of Disruption that's ready to go on turn 0 in Force of Will, a piece of Disruption that's able to go on turn 1 in Flusterstorm, Brainstorm to find the second land, Gataxian Probe gives him some looks at it too. A risky keep, but with this level of quality disruption, I think a hand that would be a mistake for Sam to mulligan.
Wienburg does have all the information now. And we'll see what he wants to do on his first turn besides taking a little peek over there at Sam's hand. Okay then.
Oh, wow.
Somebody's feeling a little frisky.
I hope he gets probed back because I want to see what's up.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
What did you keep? Well, he kept a powerful hand. 3 copies of Infernal Tutor, along with a Duress, a Dark Ritual, a Lion's Eye Diamond, and a Lotus Petal. No doubt there's some power in that hand. Sam gonna write that stuff down.
I mean, that's the type of hand where if Ben draws the right card on turn 1, he might be able to just kill him.
Yeah.
So, probably not through a Force of Will, but
I have a feeling he probably drew an Infernal Tutor off of his probe.
I feel that way too, yeah.
Which is one of the few times he doesn't want to draw Infernal Tutor. Sam gonna write it on down. He knows what he can look forward to moving forward. Bit of a smile on his face. Ponder the draw. There's the island, that's a ponder. Take a look at the top 3. Brainstorm among them. You also see a Delver and a Gataxian probe there.
It's a really good 3 cards, but it's no second land.
No red source of mana either.
Yeah.
He may be forced to shuffle here. We'll see though. It is a good 3 cards.
Well, the Delver is not shabby.
I love it. Keep it, bring it on. Cabal Therapy the draw, not you.
Although discarding to hand size isn't that bad for Ben right now because the extra Infernal Tutors are worth very little.
You can discard Therapy to ask flashback.
Gives it that later.
Yeah. Here's a Delver, pass the turn back. We're playing a resource light game.
Even by legacy standards. Yeah. We're entering Ben's third turn, I believe, and there's a land in play to 1-1.
Don't need no land. I think Ben may have drawn one for this turn. Don't have a great look at
bang
leading out with the Lotus Petal.
He would like to keep these petals in his hand to add to the storm count, but I believe he feels his hand is too valuable to discard anything to hand size, so he'll play the petal out there so he doesn't have to discard.
Sam knows it's flipping. Brainstorm is the reveal. Here's a Gataxian Probe. Let's see what else you drawn there, Ben. He's picked up about the same. Yep, you see Ad Nauseam and a Cabal Therapy are the new ones. Ben nice enough to push those forward. Says here are my draw steps. None of them are lands. Tuck those away. Black will draw a card. So you find a land. No, you found a Treasure Cruise. We're a little ways away from that one. Will he cast a Brainstorm now?
Casting a Brainstorm seems attractive to me there. He's got 3 fresh looks at land number 2.
There it is. 2 and 3. See if we can get a look at him. Scalding Tarn of Volcanic Island, along with, I believe, a Treasure Cruise. So he's found what he's looking for.
And getting that land is so awesome here. You know, he gets to put a fetch land in his graveyard. He gets to hold up Flusterstorm. He's closer to casting Treasure Cruise, gets to leave up a lot of disruption. And again, he's got his pressure in play. Ben, 6 attacks from being dead. If Sam wants to keep the Lightning Bolt, he can cut that down to 5. And Ben with, you know, a mana in play and no lands. So this is a good spot.
Especially because Sam is looking at a Force Will too, so he's got some defenses. He'll put 2 cards on top. Brainstorm Sun resolving. Easy part's attacking for 3, so Wienburg's down to 15. This is the tough part.
Now the question is, does Sam want to play the Tarn and shuffle away the top of his deck, or does he like everything he's got and wants to keep it?
Looks like he likes everything he's got. He wants to keep it. Volcanic Island's the land pass the turn back. Volcanic Island is the draw.
Unbelievably lucky.
Yes.
Ben now has a land in play.
Yes, he does. Number 1 of the game.
And Sam can't believe it either.
Incredulous.
Yeah.
Can't believe his opponent would get that lucky. Just passing the turn back over to black. Draw a copy of Treasure Cruise. There's the Scalding Tarn. Attack for 3 again, puts you to 12.
Keep it going.
More importantly, knocking the life total down again. This could be an ad nauseum game.
Exactly. With Ben's hand as clawed as it is, and the ad nauseum already in hand, he probably doesn't have the luxury of going to try to find passive flames, especially because Sam has so much disruption in his hand. Ben's most likely going to be forced to try to win this game through ad nauseum, and Sam keeping a bolt, applying a lot of pressure. Ben may not be able to do very much before he dies.
Brainstorm the draw. Doesn't look good here for Wienburg.
Keep in mind, he knows about the Flusterstorm, he knows about Force of Will, knows about Pyroblast. This is a lot to work his way through, and he does not have that much time.
There's Brainstorm. Let's see if Sam immediately moves over it. Doesn't look like he has Pyroblast in his hand anymore. See, the only red card there is a Lightning Bolt, but he's going to give this some thought. You know, Flusterstorm might be a little attractive. Would get an elemental token from Pyromancer, so it does make for an interesting situation. He's going to go reaching. Down to 15. As Ben says, just a moment, I may respond. But he will not. Sam will get to search.
Another intricacy of this format, you can't respond to lands getting tapped for mana, but you can respond to fetch lands or other things getting sacked. It's so weird because you're just used to tapping your mana and casting your spells, but the fetch lands can be responded to. Sacking those at the right time is a big deal.
Single mana. You see the Flusterstorm. There it is. kindly leave Brainstorm. Trigger the young Pyromancer. He says all the copies are going to target your Brainstorm. Get that thing out of here.
There's a lot of triggers going on here. A Storm trigger, a young Pyromancer trigger, and then he has a target with a Fluster Storm. And Sam's just saying, I'm doing what you think I'm doing.
No.
Send them all at the Brainstorm.
Let's see if Ben has a response here or not. He's in a bad way right now. Not impossible to come back and win this game, simply improbable. Does have the ability to maybe fire off Cabal Therapy, but he elects not to. Black will untap. It's time for a draw step.
And Ben needs to keep that Lotus Petal.
Yep.
He can't afford to let it go.
Looks like the draw may have been a Treasure Cruise. That's a Lightning Bolt. Trigger this. That's another card in the graveyard. Do a quick count. 7's the magic number.
What a deal.
Cruising for a bruising is Sam Black. 3 cards coming. And if he's able to find a Lightning Bolt, it'll be over. There's a Strand. This is an attack. Puts you to 3. Your ad nauseam is basically done for. And this? Well, what is this going to be? It looks like somebody's got a nice little red spell in their hand. Alternate casting cost, sacrifice 2 mountains, of course. Fire Blast, you, my friend. And that is going to do it. Inferno Tutor would have been the draw, and Sam Black is going to get the match. He wins with Blue-Red Delver taking down Storm, the one of Fire Blast, the W.
A pretty common story here. Ben getting game number 1 with Storm rather. Sam being able to sideboard in a couple precise targets for the Storm matchup, a couple Fluster Storms, gets a 4th copy of Forcible in his deck. Sideboard cards play a big role in that matchup. Blue-Red Delver wins 2 games to 1. A pretty typical outcome in this matchup.